Hey, I'm Sensitive Shannon. No, that sounds... no. I'm Shannon Solange, and welcome to the Highly Sensitive Person Safe Space. Picture this. It's Sunday morning. Finally, you get to sleep in. The long-awaited rest you've been looking forward to all week. But then, suddenly, long before it's time to awake, the neighbor's leaf blower! Well, there goes our day. If you're a highly sensitive person and you can relate, stick around for more common HSP pet peeves. Of course, these things can be annoyances to non-HSPs as well, but highly sensitive people suffer from them on another level. Even the slightest lack of peace and rest can make us physically ill. From grumpy moods to full-on migraines, our brains turn to mush, and we become useless, unproductive entities for the remainder of the day. The solution? I know of some communities where they actually voted to only have loud weed whackers and leaf blowers and machinery like that once a week on the same day. That way it's only the one day that you're bothered by these noises, and you can plan your schedule around it. See if you can get your community on board. But if that sounds too overwhelming, remind yourself to sleep with earplugs the night before so that on the morning that you know that they're going to be doing yard work, you're well protected. When I have just awoken and I'm exposed to the sounds of those soul-killing machines, I counter it by blasting some healing sound waves, like Om chanting, or 528 Hz, or some other frequencies. You can find these easily on YouTube. And it definitely soothes the pain a little. The next allergy is motor vehicles. Let's not even start about the revved up sounds that people like to add to their vehicles that make it sound like there's machine guns going off in the neighborhood at all hours in the day. No. We're going to talk about the inside of the car. If you either drive a car or carpool with someone from time to time, you can probably relate to this. You open the door and step inside and immediately notice that the radio is on too loud. The AC is blowing straight into your face and the sun is blinding you through the windshield. Or at night, the reflection of oncoming traffic in your rear view or side view mirrors. How are you going to survive this drive? When it's your car, it's easy to at least have the settings just right. But often when hitching a ride with someone else, you don't want to be rude. But what if the trip is over an hour? Come prepared. If you know it's going to be a sunny drive, bring your darkest shades. I have a pair of Category 4 sunglasses. That's for mountaineering. I live on a Caribbean island. But they're a lifesaver. The sun can be an instant headache trigger for me, so protecting my eyes during the peak sun hours of the day is essential. As for the music, kindly suggest that you cannot hear the other person speak over the lovely music. It's okay to ask for adjustments. If people don't want it, they can always say no. Change the direction of the AC vents and maybe roll the window up just a tad bit so the wind doesn't blow in your face too hard. I know I will be much better company if I protect myself from such draining exposures. So to me, it's worth risking sounding like a nag. Most people just aren't aware that these things can be so bothersome. Even the inclination of the seat can play a big part in our discomfort. Is it any surprise that we're so constantly drained? Whew. Let's go to a restaurant. So you get to a restaurant or a cafe and you're all settled in at your table, but then you notice someone is polluting the air nearby with their cigarette. So you change tables to sit upwind from the smoker. But now the light is hitting you in such a way that it's difficult to look the person right across from you straight in the eye. So you ask to switch seats. But then the conversation at the table is hard to follow because the music in the establishment is just too loud or the chatter that's going on around you is just way too noisy. And you give up the battle. At this point, I often zone in and out of the conversation if there are multiple people at the table. Because just staying present will take so much out of me at that point that I need those little micro breaks just to hang in there. And that's why most of my interactions are one-on-one. It keeps things simpler and I can keep my attention focused better. But I'm not above asking an establishment if they have any objections with lowering the music. And surprisingly, they usually happily comply. But if you're really in a bind, just taking a restroom break or excusing yourself to go for a brief walk can really help to tame the over-arousal. And lastly, the supermarket drill. If you live in a small town or a small island like I do, you've probably perfected the deflection gaze by now. But in case you haven't, what it is when you walk into a grocery store where you know you're bound to run into a handful of people that you know, you don't want to be rude by cutting them off after they acknowledge you. But you also want to get on with your shopping and you're so not in the mood for socializing. Maybe this is more of an introvert HSP thing, but let me know if you're an extrovert if you experience this too. So instead of being compliant and spending an hour too long in the store upturning your entire schedule for the day, you walk in with purpose, keeping your head tilted slightly down and dodge the potential social triggers by spotting them in your periphery. If they're coming from the left, you're gonna take a hard right, and thus you keep dancing around them through the aisles until finally you get what you needed and you make a run for it to the cashier, only to discover that they are now lining up exactly behind you and you can no longer avoid the conversation. But that's okay. You're almost out now. So you give them some kindness and appreciation because you're a good human and you're not heartless. Because resistance to a situation can sometimes be even more exhausting than just facing the challenge. Of course, there are many more examples and situations that can knock us down. Let me know what your biggest HSP pet peeve is. I also post HSP inspirations and struggles on my Instagram. I'll link to that in the description. Subscribe if you like this video because there will be more. And if you're a reader, find my website linked below. And most importantly, do something today that scares you. Peace. Hey, 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 all wrong. All wrong. What do you do with your hands? Whatever. Le restaurant. Bon appétit. That's called acting. I mean, we'll see what it looks like. There's no director here.